I'm Sam Lingle with the Daily Dot. I'm here at the MLG Major with Garett Bambrough, the coach of Splyce. So what was that like for your players, like attending an event like this and kind of like soaking in the sights and the crowd?
Well, it hasn't really kicked in quite yet because obviously everyone's still we're still down from losing. But again, it's one of those things we got to take as a learning experience and move on from it and just get everything you can out of it as best you can. But then again, just getting new experiences for the first time and seeing it in person, hopefully will be used as motivation for the rest of the guys to basically continue to get better, to strive to get to another level, that kind of stuff. So hopefully they take it for what it's worth.
So I mean, for you personally, this 9,000 people is kind of new, but it's still kind of similar to some of the things you did in the past, right? Like 10 years ago, you were in the CGS. The players actually said you like to relive your glory days a little bit too much.
Oh, that happens.
that happens?
You gotta make sure they know.
Gotta make sure they know. That's how you keep them in line.
Yeah, basically. But the thing is, a lot of the players nowadays, they're all very new. So it's like they don't know how the game came about, and some of them don't respect the other older players that basically paved the way for them. So I kind of like to remind them of that, just so they don't think of them as some it's think of I don't know, think of major sports in basketball. It's like these young guys coming in and being Michael Jordan, whatever. They're fans of Kevin Durant or something, or Westbrook or whatever. It's kind of like that. You want to make sure hey, Michael Jordan was still the best. So it is what it is. These events are now also getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the game is basically exploded to a new level, unlike what we were used to back then. We had crowds that were very big, but it wasn't a stage like this. We had the monitors and all that stuff. We just mainly had that one stage and just basically a big empty convention center full of people watching. Wow, this is more professional. They have the showcasters, they have the analysts, they have the interviews. It's more TV ready compared to what we were doing back in the day. And CGS was their attempt. It didn't work out the way everyone was hoping it would. But again, people now are learning from the mistakes of the past. So it's going to get bigger and better as we go on.
That's great. You say that they don't respect the Michael Jordans of the past, but Forrest and Neo are still playing today, at this tournament, this very event, and doing well. So, obviously the 1.6 influence is very strong.
Yeah. A lot of the coaches nowadays have come from the 1.6 background because it's notoriously known as the smarter era of CS.
Oh, the smarter era.
Smarter era. It's known, and if people try to deny it, they're full of it. But basically, those guys Neo, you got Forge, you got Markelov still in the game. All these guys, they're still in the game, not because necessarily they're the most skilled compared to the younger guys coming up, like Nico and those guys. They've had the experience, they're more aware. They're the smartest players. And they're able to stay in the game and hang in the game for so long because of that sole reason. And their experiences, you can't replace it. So those are the kind of guys that people nowadays might be oh yeah, Forrest, he's not that good. But then when I think of Forrest, I'm yeah, he's a legend, and people need to treat him as such in that sense.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a lot of other 1.6 veterans coaching, I think Zonic and Kuban are coaching.
Yep.
Couple other guys like you. I mean, why are you guys coaching now and not playing some of those other veterans?
There's a belief that well, it's not necessarily a belief. It's somewhat warranted, but basically we're older now. So I'm 29. If I start trying to play again, I can compete if I want to. Will I be that star or that stud or that amazing player? No. I would just be that solid player, but people not looking for that right now. People are looking for those up and comer, just superstar kind of guys that are basically going to carry their teams and are going to change the game, especially while it's getting bigger. You want to find those young talents that are going to be with the scene for a long period of time, that they can invest, sponsors can invest their time and their money and all that stuff, because they're going to be the ones that take the game to another level. If you bring these older guys in, I say me or whatever, it's just, I got a shelf life, you know what I mean? So I might as well use what I was known for and what I was good for, which is my knowledge of the game, and basically use that to try to basically speed up the process for the younger players when I get my opportunity for it.
I mean, having that veteran smart role player though has a lot of value still though, right?
It does, but it does a lot, especially in North America. In Europe, it's not as much because a lot of the top players are still playing, so they're still involved. So it's not they're going to bring some older 1.6 player that comes out of the blue and is going to start coaching Navi. It's not going to happen like that because they already have, they have Starks, they have all these guys already set in place. North America is extremely lacking in the in-game leaders and the knowledge of the game. So basically, in North America, we need to get smarter as a whole. We are a step behind the rest of the world in that sense. So we just got to take the best. We got to learn as we go and get better. But the 1.6 players that are coming into the game, like we come into the game to basically try to help out. Some of them might not be as familiar with CS:GO like I was when I first came in. I wasn't. But we pick up fast. We understand how the game works. We've been around it for over a decade, so I can figure out things pretty quick. And once you do that, you can help the guys get better and figure out the little details that maybe not everyone realizes and point out the mistakes that not all of them realize because they're just so frag hungry and so talented. It's just if you utilize that to be more smarter, then they'll take another step and they'll become those players that will hopefully take over and become on par with the Europeans.
So it's a specific way you can train your players to be smarter players.
That all comes down to the individual player and how where they are in the process. Some of them are more refined and just pure raw, just so skilled, just brand new, young as can be. They haven't had the time in the years to actually consistently experience the situations, the events, especially now. Now there's all these huge events, but they're all played by the top teams. There's not as many grassroots tournaments as it was 10 years ago. So the younger players don't get that experience and the exposure to feel what the land's like, feel against what it's like playing against top teams. They don't really get to experience that until they come to an event like this. One of your first land matches against VP. Good luck. They're going to take that as a learning experience and it's going to get rolled over. But it's going to take time. But every individual has a place where they are. You just got to work with them and find out what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. Work with the strengths and then just try to minimize as many weaknesses as you possibly can as you go on. It's not going to be a fast process, but it'll take a lot of time.
So in general, coaching is kind of relatively new in Counter-Strike. Obviously, there have been coaches for the past couple of years on a select few teams, I think, but it's only been this year, I think, that pretty much every team now has a coach, and they have an impact being behind the bench. So it reminds me of kind of how where League of Legends was 2 years ago, where coaches were kind of the new thing in the States, and they were kind of coming in to make an impact. So you're getting all these veteran players, right? But they have knowledge of the game. They don't have experience of coaching, actually teaching players. Has that been difficult for you to actually learn how to teach people the game versus just preaching your knowledge?
It has, because it's most of the coaches that you see come into the game now were former in-game leaders and leaders of their teams. So in that sense, I've led teams before, so I know how to lead teams and how to basically work with individuals and all that stuff because I've always done it. But coaching is such a new thing where, I had an idea how I wanted to coach. The team has an idea of what they want from a coach. It's not always what you want as a coach, but you got basically, since I've been with the guys, we've been together for 8 months now. We've had various discussions of they don't want me doing this certain thing and I want to be doing this certain thing. And we compromise, we figure it out, work together on what is best for the team. But then again, every coach that is on their team has a different style of coaching. So it's still being worked out. Eventually it'll be more universal in how people will do it. But at the same time, there's teams like Fnatic where, they have Vugo and he's their coach, but Fnatic in general as a team, they're so set on what they do. Vugo's more of maybe an analyst and point out some of the mistakes and so on. But then you have a team like CLG who has Peta, who's now their in-game leader and their coach. So every team has certain needs. It's up to the coach to basically try to fulfill those needs and do what his best job in the role that the team wants from him. So if a team needs a coach, they know exactly how they want. If they want an in-game leader, they want an analyst, if they want someone to basically develop the individual players, it all comes down to each team's preference on what they're looking for from a coach, and then hopefully the coach is able to perform to expectations.
So what do you feel is your coaching philosophy or strength?
Well, when it comes to coaching, I just basically do whatever the team I'm on, what they're looking for in a coach is what I try to fill. So obviously I might have an idea how I want to do things. They have an idea how they want things to be done for the team. In the end, it is their team, and they brought me on to help them. So my goal is to basically do all the necessary things I need to do to basically try to make them better. Whether that be working with individual players, which is what I prefer to do. I like working to make the individual player better, smarter, more consistent, that kind of stuff, because if you do that, then as a whole, you become immediately stronger. That's where I like to lean a lot of my time on as well. obviously working a team in terms of like the strategies and all that stuff. We all work together on that. It's basically you try to fill the role that they need, and if their desire on what they want me to do changes, I'll adapt and go with that as well, because a lot of the coaches now, everyone has their own style of doing things. You have the in-game leader coaches, you have the coaches that just do the like analyzing like the other team, like the anti-strats and so on and so forth. You have the coaches that are more like hands-on in the game, like PETA. So it just comes down to what each team needs, and as the game grows, that variance might get smaller, it might expand, who knows? We don't know yet, it's still so new.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's going to get smaller? I mean, it feels like a lot of coaches might not be the in-game leader right now, but it seems like that's almost inevitable that that's going to happen because it has such an impact on performance in-game.
Yeah. So
except for maybe very special players, right?
Yeah, so like, specific teams don't need that. Fnatic doesn't need that coach to in-game lead. They have the way they play, all that stuff. CLG has their coach who's the in-game leader. It seems like it's going that way. I personally think it's going to go that way myself, but I've also heard things where it just might not go that way. But in the end, I think it'll be more beneficial for the coach to be the leader to basically call the things that they want them to do. But then you still need that person, regardless, in game, who's going to, when things start getting rough and not like the players need to make their individual decisions themselves on this situation at hand, what they think is going to work. The coach sees it and like it has a great idea, but like a large part of it as well is being a part of it and actually knowing, right now as coaches we don't get to hear each individual's sound. So I won't know if, Davey heard a footstep in B tunnels. I won't know if Abe heard some nades on one side of the map. I don't know that because all I hear is the voices. So the players are better equipped in that sense to make the calls middle of the round to, hey, we need to do this because I know where these guys are, where the coaches in the end are like, we know where our guys are, but we don't really know in terms of the sound. So I think in the end, if it gets fixed, it will be that way. But then again, I've said predictions before, especially as the game's getting bigger, that I've been completely wrong on. And we'll see as we go, but it's still such a new thing that people are still working out the kinks. No one's gotten really fixed in on how things are supposed to be done as a coach. Like we're still like, every month, me and my team, we're just like change up like how they want me to do things and how I want them to do things. So it's a process.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing that's kind of happened in League of Legends as the game's developed and coaching has been, a thing for a couple of years is more teams are giving the coaches more authority to kind of control how people play and like how the roster works because they're bringing in more young players and rookies to complement their veterans, and they need, that cohesive leader, I guess, to control things.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's going to happen in the future of Counter-Strike when you look, a couple of years down the road?
That's the tricky part. League of Legends is, it's different in a way that where they have their individual like heroes and champs that, their team might need a certain style of player and all that stuff. So like you can shuffle people out of teams in League of Legends. Like if you have like the same, like based off the team they're playing, what kind of style they want to go with. In CS, it's more like we can't just shuffle out like Davey for another rifler because like what's the point? It's a tricky thing. I feel like the coaches in the end will get more power, but that's not necessarily yet because a lot of the teams that have coaches now, it's their team. They brought the coach on. So imagine if you had your own team, they bring a coach on, the coach is like, you know what, you and you are gone, you're cut. Wouldn't really sit well with anyone. It's more of like, depending on where the sport goes from now, like with Turner coming in, like maybe the coaches will have more authority there to be like, you know what, this player is lacking this, and this. He's the weak part of the team. We need to replace him, and then you can get him replaced, something like that. Maybe that's down the road. I don't think it's anytime soon. Coaches definitely have a say in where like, they talk to the leader of the team, be like, you know what, this isn't going well. We need to change this. They can give their input, but they're not the final say. And that won't, if they are ever to be the final say on anything, it won't be for a while from now, I think. Mm-hmm. Then again, everything is changing so fast that you don't
part
know.
of the difference is obviously the league structure in League of Legends compared to, the tournament structure or circuit structure that exists in Counter-Strike. I think makes it a little different for how that could potentially work. And plus, so many of the teams are, veterans who've played together for 10 years in some cases, or 6 years or 8 years in Fnatic or NIP's case. So
if you think about like online, like like if you go with the ESL Pro League's online way, like if you want to do roster changes and stuff, like you need like a certain amount of players to like remove it's a weird process, right? So we're not there yet. Eventually, it might come to the part where like it gets so big that it's kind of like major sports where like the general manager or the coach, even though they have a star player, he might be a cancer to the team. Get rid of him, and then the team has no say in it. Like they just have to believe that the coach's decision or the manager's decision or the general, like however it's going to go, has the team's best interest in heart, and that they know what's best for the team. But at that point, it's not here yet, and the players themselves know who they want to keep and who they want to get rid of. So it's not there yet, but maybe in the future.
So in terms of coaching, obviously, what do you think is, what do you think needs to be better, I guess, from what coaches are doing right now?
What needs to be better?
What is there to be improved on?
Improved on with the coaches themselves. Like obviously, we're getting better in terms of how the things are set up. Like right now, the coaches have, you have the choice. Like you can be standing behind them, walking around, like hearing the communications, but like you don't get to like hear the sounds. Like that's something I feel needs to get changed, but it's also tricky because how do you change that? It's like the only way you can change that really is if you're sitting down on a computer beside them, but then the game looks like it's a 6-on-6 game when it might confuse like the casual fan that's watching and being like it's 5-on-5 but there's 6 people. Like I think a lot of the coach stuff is all in the air about how they want to do things and the style they want to coach, but in terms of the technical part, we need to find a way for them to have the sound where like they hear every single thing that's happening, but like not all 5 players at once, because then you won't be able to tell anything. The way to do that, I have no clue. That would be the next step, I would assume, and maybe
you can't just have like a computer behind the 5,
Yeah, but I know some people, they have that. They want to be like up and like in front of the crowd because like people want to do that kind of stuff too. I personally like being behind my guys and like being able to like smack their chair and be like, let's go, like pump them up. I would just say the main thing would be probably something where you can actually get the sound of all the players or whoever you want at the particular time. Like it was like a 3-on-3 situation. Like you have one guy in B on Inferno. I want to hear his sound. So I want to be able to have a way to switch to his sound. I can watch him, and then based on what the sounds are, you can call for rotation. But otherwise, when you're just watching, you have no idea. And you're basically just relying on your players in-game smarts and the sounds they hear for like what calls they want to make. Because at that point, you got to step back a little bit and just like pray.
So I mean, you mentioned before that America needs to get smarter.
Yeah.
So you feel like that's partially because a lot of the CS players in America are younger players. There aren't as many like veterans that are on some of these teams from before. I mean, why do you think there's a difference?
I've never been. No one's ever said that before, but that does make sense a little bit. Where the veterans in CS:GO, well, not CS in general, for North America, are all gone. Really, like there's only maybe a couple left in the around that actually were at that top level.
I mean, there aren't even that many veterans from like Source, which is where a lot of the European players are also from, right?
Like. Also, Europe still has a lot of the top guys like Forrest and Neo and those kind of guys that have been around a long time. North America, we kind of just disappeared once the game went down the gutter in like 2012. So like, I came back. There's a couple other guys that came back, but like, the experience isn't there because when you think about the back, like from 2005 till 12, whatever. There's all these major events that North American teams would do well at, not win, but they'd do well and they were actually able to attend. That experience isn't in the game now because all those guys have left. But in Europe, a lot of those guys are still there. So that's a part of it, I would say, but like not as big as a part as like, it just comes down to the style that we play. And it's more puggy and just free flowing, which is okay, but without the smarts, it's not gonna, you can only go so far with it. Like if you try that puggy, free flowing kind of game against a top team, they're gonna roll you. When you're playing against the weaker teams, yeah, you can escape with some wins, but the players needed there's not enough effort being done to improve as individual players. It's more like, they come on for scrims, they'll do their practice, and then when they're done, they go to FPLs, they just pug their deathmatch, but they're not putting enough time individual as players to improve the in-game smarts and demo watching of themselves. I don't believe that's being done nearly enough to what did I do wrong here? What can I improve on this part? people are not willing to like look at their mistakes and improve on it, rather than they just move on. And you really need to take that time to.
They need to do the more boring practice versus
Yes.
just practicing their mechanics and aim.
Yeah, like you would spend a lot of time like watching your own demos. I'm not even talking about like for practice, like your own free time. Like during the day, if you have a couple hours, watch your matches, see what you did wrong, what you can improve, change your style up, be more versatile. Because right now there's so many one-trick pony players that they will never take the next step because that's the only good with that one thing, and they'll get abused when you play teams like Michelle and Navi who do their homework. And if you're a one-trick pony, they're just gonna dismantle you.